So now that we know how to find plants to label with, now it's time to learn how to label our design. There are 4 different options of labeling styles that we can use, and we're going to talk about each one of those. The first one, the most commonly used one, is text with a leader. So basically text attached to a line with an arrow at the end pointing to the plant that we're labeling. Text only, so basically just the text that you can place anywhere on your design. Keyed labels with leaders, then we got keyed labels without leaders. Both of these require the use of a plant schedule on our design to identify the plant that the key is assigned to. We're going to talk about text with leaders, normal labels. So first thing I'm going to do is going to find the plant that we want to label with. I'm going to go and label some plants on this design. I'm going to start with my plants on the side here. I'm going to label that a pear. So I'm going to find my pears. Just type pear. It's going to give me a short list of plants that match my requirements. I'm going to choose the Autumn Blaze pear. To help me make a choice for this plant, I can choose Show Selected Plant Details option here, and it will give me a panel that will provide information about the plant, cultural information, size, exposure, moisture, and all that kind of stuff. But it also gives me an opportunity to go to Dynascape.com online and view the plant picture and more cultural information. Just by clicking on this link here, it brings me to the Dynascape.com online plant database with the picture and the cultural information. So it can help me make a choice on whether this is the plant that I want to use or not. I can turn that on or off to toggle it. If I want to show more columns, I can expand my panel here to show some of those options as well in the columns that they belong in here. So once I've found the plant that I want to use, I'll highlight it. I need to now choose the method of measuring. In this case here, the default is auto count. That's the recommended measuring tool for plants. So I want to count the quantity. I can override that by typing in a quantity if I wish, so I can type in whatever I want here as a number and click insert. But using auto count here is one of the important features that Dynascape has to make the labeling process efficient and accurate, and it will automatically count the plants on my drawing when I click on them. So to insert this autumn pear, click go here. Panel will drop out of the way. It just minimizes at the bottom of my screen here so that it gets out of the way so it doesn't cover half my drawing while I'm trying to label. Now I can concentrate on what I'm supposed to do next. And basically what it wants me to do here is select a figure with count properties. The figure that has count properties are my trees here. So if I left click on the trees, it will automatically count. Now it wants me to select a location for the plant label. Left click where the arrow starts. So the first point is your arrow. Pull your mouse away in the direction that you want the label to go, and I'll zoom in on that area there to show you what's happening. I've got a leader attached with an arrow at the end and my text on the other side, and I can pull that leader in any direction that I want the label to go. Left click where I want to place it, and then right click and it'll snap itself back into place there. The panel will reappear, but my plant that I selected there will be labeled. So I can continue going around my design, labeling my plants by finding them, choosing them, and then clicking auto count here or go to auto count them. So let's go and try a couple of different other methods of labeling here. Let's try text without a leader. So that's just plain text, and I'm going to go to my design here. I'm going to see the whole design, zoom in on the other side, and start labeling some of these plants. Say for example I want to label these plants as a hydrangea. I'm going to go find my pink diamond. There's my pink diamond. Click go, auto count, grab the plant. So I got to grab the perimeter of the plant somewhere on the geometry, not in blank space. So I have to actually select the plant, left click on it, and it right away puts the quantity and the plant name right on my crosshairs where I can just drop it down so I can place that anywhere I want on my design. So there's the second method, text without leaders. The third method is plant keys, so that's with leaders and plant keys. And let's find another plant. I'm going to label my hosta here. So I'm going to find my hosta just by typing in hosta. There's my plants. I'm going to choose Francis William hosta. And right away, as soon as I choose my plant name, this box here will show a code. That's my key code, and the key code is based on the botanical name. So the first letters of each of the botanical names. So HSF is the code that's going to be used for Francis William Hosta. I can change that to whatever I like, and that will stay there. That will be permanent. Whenever I use this plant again, it will always use whatever I've typed in here. But to label with plant keys, with leaders, the same method. Click Go to auto count. Click on the grouping of plants. So I've got to find a spot where I can select the hosta there. It will count that there's 5 there. Left click somewhere to start my leader. So I'm going to start my leader right here. And as I pull my mouse away, you'll see that there's now a plant key with a quantity attached to the leader. I can drop that down on my drawing to continue labeling. The panel will reappear so I can find my next plant. The last plant that I'm going to label is another spreading evergreen here. I'm going to find Calgary carpet is the one that I want to use here. There it is. Now I'm going to choose keyed labels without leaders. Click Go. Click on the plant grouping, so I'll click on the edge there, and right away it will show up on my crosshair the key code with the quantity attached to it, and I can just drop that down right on top of my plants in my drawing. And this is, if you've got a really cluttered drawing with lots of plants on it, you don't have any room for all your leaders, this is a nice method to use to label your drawing with. The plant labels with the leaders and the whole plant name takes up the most amount of space, but it's the most common way of labeling your plants. So if you've got room, that's the best method to use. It's easiest for everyone to read. Plant keys requires that you have a plant schedule. That's the next thing that we're going to talk about, is the plant schedule. Inserting a plant schedule on our design. I've only got 4 plants labeled here, so I wouldn't normally do that until the very end. But to show you how the plant schedule works, I'm just going to zoom in on an area here where I'm going to place it. All I need to do is click on, under related tasks here, place a plant schedule in the drawing. Click on that. The plant schedule panel appears. I can choose a number of different visible columns that I want to show. I need key codes because I've got key codes on the drawing. I could have remarks. If I wanted to add remarks, those I have to fill in manually. I can show quantity, size. If don't have size, I can turn that off. In my case, I do have sizes, even though they don't show up on my labels there. And we're going to talk about how to show your sizes on your labels in a minute. I can choose the grid options, so I can show the column lines and the rows if I want to, and I can arrange my data in the list by common name, botanical name, or key code. In this case, if I were just using key code, likely will be the same as botanical name, but I could modify the key code so that I could change the order. Botanical name will usually be the same if I don't change the key code. So click OK, and instantly my plant list will be attached to my crosshair, and I can place it on my drawing anywhere that I like. So it's taken all the plants that I've labeled with the quantities, the key codes that is associated with them, and even the size. And this is basically a block or a figure that I can stretch and change the size of and reposition anywhere on my design. So I can move it around by grabbing the corner grip. The top corner grip will allow me to move it. The other corner grips will allow me to resize it. Like that. So I can place it anywhere on my design. I can add, a title to it called Plant Schedule if I wish. And it will basically, every time I add a new label, I need to redo this list. So if I add more labels to my design, I need to erase this, add my labels, and then reinsert it into my design. But because it's very quick, that's not going to be an issue. So let's look at some of the label settings. I'm going to change this to normal text with leaders. That's where you would see the plant sizes and whatever else you wanted to add to your label. But in my case here, let me zoom out and zoom back in on this area here where I added my label. I did not have a size attached to my leader here, or to my label here. If I wanted to, I can set it up so that it actually shows the size attached to the label, as well as some other information. To do that, we go to our settings button here, and it'll open up a label settings panel where I've got a number of different options here. I can choose the result columns that show up here, so I can change the order of them, so I can have maybe the zone or the moisture requirements show up in a different list here, a different order, by clicking on Edit beside the result columns there. And I can rearrange the order. Say, for instance, I want leaf colors to be right beside size, or if I wanted size to be at the very bottom, I can rearrange that, click OK, and when I click OK here, it'll rearrange the order of those columns. So I can change the order of the columns. I'm going to bring mine back. I like to have the the size is right next to my common name. Leaf color is not as critical as flower color, so I'm going to change that there. Click OK. I can also change, this is if I wanted to change my plant list to another list, so I can create a second list of plants with my plant list editor, so I can create multiple lists for different maybe contractors. If I'm a landscape designer, I could have 3 or 4 different contractors, and I could have a specific list for each of those. I can also go to the online database, which would link up to Dynaescape's sales and estimating program. We're not going to talk about that one there, but that's how you do that. Next is the leader settings. If I wanted to change some of the text attributes, I can change the text attributes here by changing the width and the height, as well as the active font. I can also change the size of the tail, the extension on the leader. I can change the angle of my leaders, so it'll snap to, instead of 45s, it'll snap to, say, I can change it to 30. I like to use 30 degrees. It gives me an extra option. When I'm labeling, it gives me a little more flexibility. I can also change what shows up on the end of my label. Here I can choose multiple lines so that the botanical and common name will show up on separate lines. I can also, I'm going to leave that to single. I prefer to have it in one line. I can have botanical name show up on my label as well as the common name or just a botanical name. And I can also have size show up. By turning that on, clicking OK, clicking on my plant name, clicking auto count here, go, clicking on my plant, for example, for this plant here, now you'll see there's a size attached to my label every time I insert it using the normal text with a leader option here.